Since Ram did the first video on imprinting, female imprinting, I guess it's my turn to actually do one on female imprinting. Imprinting is very complex when you talk about imprinting on a human being, because that goes all the way back to the child being a baby. And whether the father's there or not, an absent father has just as big of an imprint as a father that is there. So if it has the father is actually there, then the part of the woman's imprinting will be from the father that she has, if he's a good father, or sometimes if he's a bad father, that's another imprint that a woman carries. If the father's not there, then she will have an idealized version of the father that she didn't have, which is another thing that that little girls form. It's like, for instance, if she doesn't have a father, then media culture will form that ideal man. In fact, you could listen to, especially young women, talk about it. When women talk about the stars that they like, or that one star that they like, there's always a woman always has that one male star that she idealizes around, and she will say that she's actually married to that particular star. That is her ideal man, her idealized man. That is the ideal man that brings not only the physical alpha, but also the financial alpha, the provider alpha. Whereas you have the alpha and beta mix. You got to remember, women want both. They want an alpha and they also want a beta male. They want both. They would like to have it in the same person. That's that idealized, perfect, ideal man. That's also the internal idealized man, which is her animus. And a lot of guys don't realize that to actually sexually turn a woman on, it's not always physical. It's not always physically penetrating her and forcing her to have an orgasm. If you can actually do that through voice, if you fit her animus, her idealized man, that perfect idealized man, you can just talk to her and she'll have an orgasm and you will become her alpha. You can actually penetrate her emotional core, her womb, without ever penetrating her, which it sounds funny until you've actually done it. You don't have to have sex with a woman to actually become her alpha. It's harder because you have to match her idealized version of what a man is, but you can do it. And there's always that one guy that actually can do it. You know, that's her physical representation of what an alpha male is, or what a idealized man is. Well, let's get into it as far as how it plays out. Now, little girls growing up do have that idealized man, that alpha and that beta into, because she imagines that good-looking guy that she sees in her poster, or she sees on TV, or whatever other kind of media she sees him in, as that particular guy, and she attributes the manliness, but also the beta attributes to that guy. So when she grows up, she's going to look for that. So when she comes into puberty, she's going to look for that, and she's going to get attracted to that. And she's going to reject all the other suitors until she can get a particular guy that matches that idealized man, or in some form, some fashion. Sometimes it's beta, most times it's alpha. You know, the physical alphas, she will, on the physical plane, she'll get attracted to first. And those are the ones that will imprint her first as far as sex is concerned. And just like anything else, any kind of drug user, once a woman's emotional core gets imprinted and those chemicals get released, those endorphins get released, that sets up an addiction. And just like any other addiction, I'm not saying, all addictions aren't good. All addictions aren't bad. A lot of Black people are addicted to sugar. Some people, black people, a lot of people are addicted to salt, heavy foods. That's a natural addiction that's inherent. But that's not. It doesn't have to be a drug addiction. But the same thing with sex. When a woman gets imprinted and those endorphins get released, she's going to, even if that alpha man breaks up with her, she's going to look to replace that feeling with somebody else. But if she gets imprinted or she gets imprinted early by a particular kind of alpha man, she's always going to look for that kind of guy. And it's going to be very difficult for any other man to match up to that alpha imprinting. That's how come we call, in red pill circles, we call those alpha widows, because she will always be pining for that experience that she had with that particular alpha that she got first imprinted with. And and it has to be not only sex where she has an orgasm, but also he has to match that idealized version of that man that she has in her head. Those two things have to come together to form an alpha widow. Now she can get addicted to men sexually by having an orgasm. She can get addicted to that, but that man, all those other men will never match that particular alpha. And you can actually ask her if she'll either love him or she'll be bitter by it. And you could hear it in their voice. If you talk to them long enough, that's the one guy that they will always talk about. I've seen women in their, I would say 50s and in their 60s still talk about their particular alpha. That particular alpha almost becomes like their master. That's the thing that they can never, ever, ever get over, which is why I always tell girls, especially young girls, to be careful about who they give their wombs to. And be careful about choosing their mate. Just because that particular man fits their version, or what they think of their version of their ideal mate is, they have to really, 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 really be careful, because if that particular man penetrates her and he does give her an orgasm, in other words, he completes the sequence. You know how it is with and some of the science fiction shows where you have to turn a key and you have to put in a code to unlock the bomb or unlock the vault. Okay, that idealized man will turn the key, but if he inputs the code, in other words, he gives her an orgasm, he completes the sequence. Once he completes the sequence, she's locked in, and she's locked in until what we call a greater alpha comes in and overcomes that. Now, what that alpha man will do is set up what we call an alpha type, a type of guy that she likes because she's looking for that fix. She will always be, it's like chase. The Chinese call it chasing the dragon, chasing the high. And women will always go back. Men too, but women especially will always go back to the situation where they can get that same feeling, because women are about feeling good and emotion, and they want that feeling. They want that feeling constantly, so they will chase that feeling. They will chase that high, which is why I did the video replying to Solo TV about, does a woman's sexual history matter? And that's the reason it does matter. Ram says that if you go ask a woman about the first 3 men she had sex with, they'll tell you a lot about her, which is very true, because women have a gateway to sex, and she will only allow in certain people through the gate, especially the first 3, especially when she's young, because after that first alpha, she's trying to replace him. So she's going to replace him with a similar type, and that type over time will become apparent. So that's why her sexual history matters. So if you're a guy that doesn't match her idealized man, her idealized alpha, you're going to have problems in your relationship. And some women are crafty enough to hide their sexual past because they know what it will reveal. And most guys that are savvy enough will figure out that they don't match that kind of type, and they will shy away. So that's how come women are very crafty about keeping their sexual history quiet. But if you're perceptive enough, and if you give room to it, non-judgmental room to it, a woman will tell you about her sexual history. She'll open right up. because women all want to talk. They all want to be accepted. So if you allow that sexual history to come in unjudgmental, you can actually make an evaluation, which is something men don't do, because most men don't want to hear about it. Men don't want to be compared. So now most men don't want to hear about it because they don't want to try to live up to it. But the thing is, if you're very crafty about it and you don't judge her sexual history, she will tell you about it. Even though you're judging it, even though in your head you're judging it, you're weighing your options. But the thing is, outwardly you can't be judgmental. You have to be accepting of her sexual history, and she will tell you about it, and that will tell you what kind of guy she has to go for. And if you're not that kind of guy, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to make her have tingles down there. There's always that one exception where you don't fit the pattern, which is another struggle altogether. But that's kind of far afield of where we're going. And we're at 15 minutes. We're good. That's why the mental part of the alpha male, I call it the alpha male imprinting, is so important, because it's, like I said, it's the two different things. It's the mental, which unlocks the key, and then it's the sexual or the physical that actually put in the code. And the sexual is actually extremely important for females, because if she gets her idealized man and he can't make her orgasm, or he doesn't make her orgasm, he makes her wet, but he doesn't make her orgasm, that's going to cause a split. It's going to cause a further split because he can't complete the sequence. And the guy that can complete the sequence is the guy that's actually going to get her sexual attention. You ever see that especially, especially those women, those bougie women, those women that have the high class jobs and high class positions, and they're really bougie, and they like the guys with the suits and the ties and and the briefcases and stuff like that. They're really high status men, because those are the idealized men that they have in their heads. But they've been penetrated by that bad boy that gave them orgasms. So they'll date the idealized men, the upscale guy, and they'll cheat with Pookie and Ray Ray. That's that schisms. That's why women have those two different sequences. They have the idealized, and they have the sexual. A woman's sexuality is far more complex than men are. And men mostly, it's in their heads. Like Rom says, sexual attraction for men is mostly in their heads. Well, women, it's both. It's in their heads, but it's also in their bodies. The reason that it's in their bodies is because of the chemicals that are set up. And I think I've done a video on that, about the different chemicals, the oxytocin and the few other things that cause a woman to bond to a man. And the physical bonding, the addiction, the physical bonding, the physical addiction is different from the mental addiction. That's why when you get a woman that gets both the idealized man and the physical addiction, the mental and the physical addiction, that's a very difficult thing for her to break. In fact, she never, some women never break it. Absolutely never, ever break it. I mean, they carry that for 40, 50 years. And some carry it well, and some women are angry about it. And don't let that woman have a child by that particular alpha. On top of that, that's another story altogether. We're not even going to mention that, because that's a triple whammy to the idealized man, mental, the sexual, where she penetrates her core, her emotional core, physically through orgasm, and then have a baby on top of that. Ooh, that's how come you have a lot of angry baby mamas around. A lot of angry baby mamas around. If you ever want to see an absolutely vicious female, Crystalline Karazin is one of them that are actually vicious toward men or men of her race. That's what you'll see. You'll see that where the triple threat has actually happened. I'm probably going to have to do something a little bit more tidy. This is just an off the cuff rant about imprinting because I'm getting this in because of Rhyme's video, and it's becoming a ramble, and I'm all over the place because the topic is really really complex. And Obsidian wants us to do a sit down on talking about it on his Blog Talk channel, which is the Obsidian Media Network on Blog Talk, where we're going to actually, me and Ron probably actually going to do 2 or 3 hours talking about this because the topic of imprinting is so complex, man. It's so it's the only two people that actually understood it about imprinting were actually Jung. Jung was the best. If you want to understand imprinting, you read Jung. Jung understood imprinting, and Freud. I think Freud was second best. Freud understood the ego, the psyche, but Jung understood the symbols and imprinting. He understood about the idealized man and woman that live inside of us. That's why marriage was never left in the hands of the young people, because you can't have a stable relationship on an ideal, because it doesn't always play out in the real world. And imprinting is a very, very powerful thing on a human psyche. It actually becomes part of your brain structure. Those switches that actually get hooked up. Human beings are not like animals. They're entirely unhooked up or unformed, mostly unformed, until they get programmed. And once they get programmed, that becomes part of who they are, part of their brain structure, actually. So the topic of imprinting on a young person, or imprinting on a man or a woman, is really a very, very wide subject. And it's something that I'm sure psychologists have written books about. And it's not very well understood. And the people that do understand it, they actually make a lot of money. But anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. Yep, it's 23 minutes. I've rambled on long enough. And I'm going to edit this down. And tell me what you think. This is not particularly coherent. And I'm all over the place. But this is my answer for you, Rom. This is BGS.